Just one more hour until reinforcements, aka me, arrive to save the day. But until then, keep your eyes on the highway and keep on trucking with Jimmy Mack on Road Gang Radio, y'all.
Welcome to Trucking Tributes. I'm your host for Trucking Tributes, Susan Patten. And today on Trucking Tributes, well, it's a little bit melancholy for me because this is my last Trucking Tributes interview. And I am so super thrilled because I've got a dear, dear friend joining me for that last interview and a gentleman that I am introducing you to for Trucking Tributes who will be filling in for me and along with Elizabeth Bara. And the two of them will be hosting Trucking Tributes as we move forward. But I am introducing Don Queeney, no stranger to the trucking industry. Yay! Yeah, where is that applause track? I forgot the applause track, Don.
That's okay. That's okay.
Don Queeney is joining me for this Trucking Tributes, and I will be actually retiring after Wreaths Across America Day on Saturday, December 13th. And never fear, those in the trucking land, I will still be listening and tuning in and that sort of thing. But you're going to be left in very, very capable hands with Don Queeney and Elizabeth Bara. And Don, as we have said, you are absolutely no stranger to the trucking industry. So for those who actually don't know anything about you and your background, you went from, let me see, commercial fishing in Maine into the trucking industry. How did it all happen for you?
Let's see. Actually, the trucking came first, a little bit of stint in that. I was a helper on a moving van. I've always been in the household goods relocation side of the industry. And did a little bit of that, and then had come to Maine. I did things different, Susan. I would come to Maine in the winter and go down and work on the moving trucks in the summer down in southern New England and New York. So that goes to show you my mental state. But anyway, and I eventually got on the fishing boats and left the moving and trucking behind. And then when we started a young family, we were young and we started a family, and the industry was a little dangerous and was maybe not going as well as it could. There was issues in the commercial fishing industry, and there still are. And so I just started doing whatever, and I started a little moving business called Mid-Maine Moving and Storage in Damascotta, Maine, and got hooked up with a national carrier out of Rhode Island called Paul Arpin Van Lines, and became friends with the family, the Arpin family, and Mr. Paul Arpin himself tapped me to open an office in Norfolk for him. So we did. We moved our young family from Damascotta in 1996, I think it was. No, I'm sorry, 1991. We moved to Norfolk and area. And as I say, the rest is history, but there's a lot that goes in between there. But so we started that moving business there, and I remember driving the moving van down with my son at 4.5 years old in the truck, looking at everything going by when he wasn't sleeping. And now he runs a business, and my wife is she and he run the business day to day. She's got plans to retire before too much longer. I gave up the reins a few years ago and did some things formally with Wreaths Across America. I had been volunteering before, and then gave that up. And now I'm doing a lot of different things. I've actually started another little business associated with moving. And so I keep myself pretty busy. And I'm actually beginning to start to pack my foul weather gear to make the trek to Columbia Falls and be part of the first mile driver experience that I started, 6 or 7 years ago now. So looking forward to continuing.
That is so cool. And, never fear, folks. We have some foul weather in, November and December in Maine. It's been told, and it's true. But we also have some lovely days too in Maine in the winter. And everybody manages to make it and get to us safely when it comes to picking up those veterans wreaths. And, we have some tremendous experience, and we're going to unpack more for our listeners, Dawn, during the show about that first mile driver experience and what that's all about. But but I absolutely love your story of getting engaged with Wreaths Across America for the first time, and you thinking as a young guy that you knew it all when it came to trucking and logistics, and you were going to come into Wreaths Across America, by golly, and you were going to let Rob Worcester and the Worcester team and everybody at Wreaths Across America know exactly how this trucking logistics could work out and work out well. And you had a plan. However, what happened?
I give you credit, Susan. You have never forgotten this story. You always get it right every single time, and it was a humbling thing. So I don't miss a beat. I remember every second of it. I had been I started a little moving business from scratch, and I thought I knew what I was doing. I was on some advisory boards for different carrier, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. And I had first met Rob on my first year. The second year I picked up Wreaths. I actually drove for the first few years, picked up loads. I think they knew what they were doing because they had me go into Arlington right off the bat. And I think they might have knew they had a fish on the line. So they wanted to make sure that I had that experience. And it was an experience, and it hooked me for sure. But I guess it was the second year I was invited to come in to see, how they get the loads put together and what have you. And I saw what they were doing, and I said, oh my gosh, I could do better than this, So I kind of put a little thought together, or whatever you call it, and try to come up with something. So I told Rob, I said, Rob, why don't you, let me take a look at this, let me see what I can do with it, and started diving into it. I thought, a box of file folders and a couple reams of paper and some magic markers or grease markers on a whiteboard, and we could figure this out. And holy smokes, there was so much more to it. I mean, it'd be one thing if, when you had somebody say, yes, I'll take a load, and it was kind of like, quote unquote, any other freight load. You could whip them with a wet noodle saying, be here at 12:05 or you're not going to get this load. Darn it. That's not how this works. You are all over them. Thank you. Come whenever you want. Doesn't matter. We'll take care of you. And by the way, there's 14 trucks that showed up that we didn't expect in front of you. And oh, by the way, all those wreaths aren't going to fit. Now you got to lose this one load. And they tell you, oh, that's my favorite load. That's Mrs. McGillicuddy and I are best friends. I got to deliver that one. So then there was so many moving parts. And primarily because it was volunteers, and because of the emotion involved with each stop, there's no lies. Some of these stops, a driver is, he sets them off in front of somebody's garage, which happens, and never sees the end result, But then there's the ones where, the Glee Club comes out and has got cookies and hot coffee, and they're singing to them, or there's an escort into town with children and police. I mean, it goes on, and these guys and women and people and the carriers. There's a lot to this, and I think we would all agree. I don't know if there's anything like it on a national or the level that there isn't.
There isn't.
So as I've said in other interviews and other people, the industry gets it, and I think I might have mentioned that I've had recruiters. The recruiting of over-the-road truck drivers is an industry in itself, and they spend a lot of money to get a guy or woman behind the wheel of a truck. And you might do 10 interviews and hire one person, and that one says, all right, Mr. Recruiter, I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to sign this contract, and I know my truck's sitting outside. Just one last thing. I need to know that you can get me with an empty trailer to Columbia Falls, Maine, so I can pick up a load of wreaths. And he's like, what? And I'm like, no, really, I'm not signing this document until you tell me that you can do this. And that time that I've had 3 calls at one, I think it was my last year as director of transportation, with carrier recruiters saying, basically, what the heck is this all about? And really, they were kind of angry at me a little bit, and like, don't blame me. What's the problem? And the problem was that, somebody's holding them over the barrel saying, I want to do this. And if you're trying to get me to move from this carrier to your carrier, you need to tell me that I can do this, or else I'm walking out of here.
It's
And
that kind of
that
business.
says a lot. I mean, that says a ton.
It does.
And
It's exactly what Wreaths Across America is all about. And for those listening to Trucking Tributes today who have already become members of our honor fleet at Wreaths Across America and already haul these veterans wreaths from point A to point B, they know that they are hauling America's respect. And they have so many times said to us on Trucking Tributes, Dawn, that this load is the most precious cargo that they have ever carried. And you are not making up stories here. This is, some drivers have made their decision as to who they're hauling for and who they're working for based on will they let me do Wreaths Across America. And that's not unique to the transportation industry either, Don. We have had law enforcement officials do the same thing.
oh, no kidding.
Yes, we actually have one of our law enforcement officials who works on the annual wreath escort actually changed agencies that he was working with because the other agency put a stop to his involvement with Wreaths Across America, and he just would not hear of it. And he said, "Look, I'm switching agencies," and he literally left that police department he was with, and the contingency to go to the new police department was, "Can I still and will I still be
Yeah.
participating in Wreaths Across America?" Because we have people say it all the time. I'm even thinking that folks at Radio Nemo probably had the very same revelation when they first got involved with Wreaths Across America. When Jimmy first came up, he and I was his first Wreaths Across America contact, actually. And we met in Connecticut. And I think they had that awakening as well about how it works and how dedicated our professional drivers and our carrier companies are to the mission to remember, honor, and teach. And once you get involved once, you want to stay involved. That's why it's a little melancholy for me to think that I'm actually stepping away from Wreaths Across America, all for good reasons, just retiring, nothing serious. Going to have a little fun with my husband and my dogs working forward. But Don Queeney is going to be taking over the helm here, taking Trucking Tributes along with Elizabeth Bara. So those are voices that you are going to hear moving forward. But each of them tells the story, as I have on Trucking Tributes and as all of our professional drivers have relayed, that this is very much a people business and a people driven mission all throughout the country. We are in every single state. We're in Puerto Rico, we're in Guam, America Samoas. Wherever a U.S. service member is laid to rest, chances are Wreaths Across America is remembering them, honoring them, and in the process, teaching the next generation the value of freedom. And as I've always said on Trucking Tributes, John, that these veterans wreaths go by truck, trains, LNG tankers. They've been hauled by planes. They've been hauled by livestock trailers. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody gets into it. And then so you learned so much coming in thinking you were going to tell them how to rule the roost and how to get these loads. And so, what was your learning process like in terms of evolving from there? Because then you took on the responsibility of being our director of transportation at Wreaths Across America for several years.
Yeah. Well, there was a good foundation to begin with. So that was, Debbie Sparks stayed on with the transition and helped me. And Sarah Worcester had already been at it for quite some time and was the the best conduit between the technology on how we kept track of all this and how we did this. It was really my Debbie's and then mine and now Courtney's responsibility to recruit, retain the carriers, continue to get the word out. Twist an arm as needed, maybe once in a while, to get somebody to take an extra load. It'd be one thing if the trucking industry had been completely highly profitable for the last 20 years, but it hasn't. And the industry's had a few good years, but for the most part, it's been kind of stagnant on profits. And there's been a lot of consolidation. I mean, carriers that would do 7 loads would just vanish during the year sometimes, not meaning they'd go out of business. And so that was 7 loads you had to make up, and that's no small feat to be able to do that. And then when you increase loads, your number of loads by, I don't know, not tenfold, but probably 30 to 100 new loads a year. I think one year that I was there, we had 60 some odd new loads that we had to book. And so anyway, so the transition was working well with the foundation that was already there, doing the best that I could with my bedside manner or knowledge of speaking to drivers, speaking to carriers, being able to talk a little bit, so that they knew that they that I was speaking to knew that they had somebody that had a clue about the industry and what it took to do, and having an understanding that this isn't like just bringing a truck out to a ball field to do a touch a truck event. This is expensive. And I actually did spend one off season right after Wreath Day, after my second or third year, actually putting a dollar value, an estimated dollar value on what each load actually costs for the carrier or the driver itself. So I think that was an advantage that I had, or anybody has, with some of that background, to be able to commensurate with those that are agreed to do this, but may be struggling to afford it or what have you. So it runs the gamut. There's the bigger carriers that this is a major part of their program that they use to thank their veterans, thank their drivers, and do their community outreach. And then there's a few that, they save up all year to be able to take time off and be able to pay for the fuel and everything in between.
Absolutely. And it takes all of that, as we've often said, a cliche phrase, but it takes the village to get the job done, because as we know that they've heard on Trucking Tributes many times, that many of our participating locations, and to Don's point, in 2025, we are over 5,300 participating locations in addition to Arlington National Cemetery. And we're growing. We grow every year. It's a grassroots growth. It happens every year. But a lot of these participating locations are smaller. Some of them are community cemeteries. Some of them are memorials at American Legion clubs or things along those lines. So bigger trucks can't get there. They can't get in to do that job. So we make arrangements, and that's part of that logistic and the whiteboard, figuring it out on the whiteboard as to who's going where and who's going to pick up, and where are our volunteers on the ground going to meet the driver with the truck so that they can offload their truck into the livestock trailer to get the livestock trailer to the location to where they're going to be doing National Wreaths Across America Day. And it is just that extraordinary. The logistics are immense as we continue to grow, as we do every year, because of patriotic American citizens. That's how it's done. There's no magic per se, magic dust sprinkled every December. We have individual volunteers that will step up and say, I will volunteer to be a location coordinator in my community. I will get my civic clubs involved and my scouting groups involved, and all of these organizations come together to participate, to support that one location where veterans are remembered and honored. And we even have transportation companies that become involved as location coordinators. We've got our professional drivers. Some of our professional drivers have been so impacted by Hauling America's Respect that they have stepped up and said, in addition to hauling my load from point A to point B, then I'm going to also operate a location. And that point A to point B is probably really important to remind our listeners, Dawn, on Trucking Tributes, that you do not have to drive all the way to the state of Maine to pick up a load of veterans wreaths, because you operate cross docks all throughout the country. Explain that process.
Yeah, so I don't operate any. That's Courtney.
Courtney does. Yes, Courtney.
And Courtney and Sarah are the ones that are operating. Absolutely. Now, I did help bring some of those on board, and yes, we all operate. We all work on this together. But we have cross docks in many places. Some in Virginia. We've got cross docks in Missouri and Mississippi, and a few in Arizona and Central California, the Northwest outside of Tacoma. The list goes on. And, some of them, if those that are in the industry to think of a cross dock, they have a vision in mind of what that looks like, but it's not always just that. In a couple of cases, it's a fancy horse barn in Ohio with a former state trooper that he and his wife and his daughter make 60 or 36 stops around Dayton or whatever. But yes, so we have those cross docks, and those play a vital role, because getting wreaths 3,000 miles across the country on a volunteer donated basis is difficult, and it's quite a sell. And to try to sell somebody on that, and those that do any of this, God bless them. But those that do those long hauls, God bless them, because it takes a financial burden off of this mission, a tremendous one. While I'm at it, I mean, it was 3 years ago now, I guess, that I put a pencil, and I had some help with the folks at JB Hunt and tried to use some of their calculating technology on what have you. But I back then put the value of the in-kind donation at well above $8 million that the trucking industry donates. And the individual load cost a carrier or a driver about $10,000, because everyone must realize that we're not right on I-95 in New Jersey somewhere, or the home base. Right. It's a long ways to Columbia Falls, and it's a beautiful drive, and there's no problem, but it is one way in and one way out. Yeah. And so usually they're deadheading quite a number of miles to get here, and then they drive, and they're not always in their normal routing. They're not always where they would often empty out. So they make their delivery or deliveries, and then they have to deadhead to get back in line for their normal routing. And so you combine all that, and then take into account that they don't get the load that they might have gotten paid for, to do all of this, and that runs around $10,000 or more. So God bless them. God bless them all to make it happen.
It's an amazing, amazing contribution to Wreaths Across America from the transportation sector and division. And yes, our Director of Transportation, Courtney George, along with Sarah and Rob and everybody in the transportation division at Wreaths Across America, just amazing. The Wreaths Across America has an amazing team in place. And probably the most important people of the team are our volunteers, our boots on the ground throughout the country and in the transportation division that are making this all happen. Well, Don Queeney, once again, another half hour on Trucking Tributes has just flown. It's been incredible. I think it kind of almost kind of poignant that you were probably one of my first Trucking Tributes interviews back in 2017 or so. And now you turn out to be my last Trucking Tributes interview. I'm not going anywhere. Everything's fine. I am retiring and going to be letting Don Queeney and Elizabeth Bara slip into the broadcast chair. And they are going to be your voices moving forward for Trucking Tributes. And they're going to let you know, as I have done over the years, that Wreaths Across America just is filled with gratitude for the contributions that you make. And we'll do our best to make sure that, number one, we listen to your feedback and use that to positively improve the conditions and the environments that you are dealing with as carriers for America's respect. And so, Don Queeney, keep the great work going and moving forward, as I know you will do. We keep moving forward at Wreaths Across America. And I wish you the greatest success and have a blast doing these interviews, because they're fun.
They can be very fun. And I'm not going to say that Elizabeth and I have big shoes to fill, because I know that's not true, but we got a beautiful pair of shoes to fill. And I really look forward to doing this and taking the legacy that you started on up to whatever level, whatever direction we go. And I will continue to sign off like I have with Michael Hale when we used to do the truck stop thing, and say, keep the shiny side up.
Amen to that, sir.